Hello guys, welcome back. In the last video we had discussed about arrays in details, and now we shall first take a look at some code for arrays, and then we will start with pointers, and lastly we shall see how pointers work using some code. So let's first get started with coding for arrays. So first of all, as usual, we will declare the header file, and then we will write the void main. Inside this, let's make one array variable. Let the size of the array be 5. And to iterate over the array, we are using one integer variable, that is say int I, any counter. Now, to initialize an array, there are three methods. The first one that you can use is like this, which is a pretty obvious method. Say ARR0 is equal to, say suppose 10. And inside this you have to write the index of the array. So this will be 30, let's say 2, say this is 40, and this will be 50. Now we are aware that for any array, the indexing always starts with 0. So that's why over here I've written array 0 is equal to 10. And our array index goes up till 4, that is size minus 1. The size of our array was 5. You could have taken any size over here. You can take 50, you can take 5, you can take 500. But just for the sake of simplicity, I have taken the size of the array to be 5. Now over here I have written array 0 is equal to 10. That means the first element of our array is 10. And likewise, array 4 is equal to 50. That means the fifth element of our array is 50. So this is our first element, second, third, fourth, and this one is obviously the fifth element. Now in order to get the output, we will run a loop. Inside this, let's write so that must give us our required output. Let's build the code. Okay, so let me just format it a little so that the code or the output is visible. So you can see the first element is array 0 is 10, array 1 is 20, array 2 is 30, 3 is 40, and 4 is 50. So that is the output that we obviously expect. Now this process of initializing an array becomes way too tedious. Just imagine having 1,000 elements in your array and you start to initialize your elements in this fashion. That is obviously not a desired method. So to overcome that, we have another method using which you can initialize your array directly. So 10, 20, 30, say 40 and 50. Now in this method, writing this 5 over here is optional. You can either choose to write it or you may choose not to write it. It makes no difference. Why so? Because over here you are putting in some elements. Now in this case we have included 5 elements over here. So the compiler will automatically detect that if you have placed n number of elements, say if you have placed n number of elements over here, that means your size of the array is n. Okay, so the compiler will automatically detect that. I'll just show you. Let us run this code. You see the values that we are getting are the same. Now if you remove this 5, there will be no change in the output. You'll get it exactly in the same manner, and we have got it. So that is another method of initializing an array. Now yet another method is, see, over here when you do in this manner, what happens is you're having to hard code the values. But what if we want to take the values as input from the user? In that case, we obviously need to run a loop. So let's directly copy this loop and paste it over here. Okay, let's prompt the user to enter a value. So enter array this. Okay, let's write a scanf percentage d comma array I. So that will take the input from the user. Let's run the code. Say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So you see, you're getting the output as 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. It works perfectly fine. So that was about 1D array. Now let's move on to 2D array. So we will directly copy this entire code because the process is more or less similar. So for 2D array, obviously you need to write it in this manner. Let's say 3 cross 3. So over here we'll have this. So this is the input for our first row. This will be the input for our second row. And then lastly the third row. This is 70, 80, 90. So that is our 2D array. We have initialized it. But again, this method is again very tedious, as I already told you. So we will not use that method. I am showing it just for the sake of completion. So in order to print it, we will have to use two loops. So let's copy this inner loop. Here I'll have to write a J, J and J. Let's print a new line here. Yeah, that probably is fine. Over here I will have obviously array ij. Let's run the code. So it works as expected. We've got the output 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So that is a 2D array where the first element of the array is indicated by the indices 0, 0. Second one is 0, 1, then is 0, 2. Now we move on to the second row. So the first element of the second row is 1, 0, then 1, 1, then 1, 2, and then the last row is 2, 0, 2, 1 and 2, 2. So again, we will not use this method for initializing an array. Instead, what we'll use is this method. So let's say 60, 70, 80, 90. Okay. Now over here, what you have to notice is this first value inside the square bracket is optional. Why is it so? See, the first value over here indicates the number of rows that you have in your matrix. Now if you do not include this one, it doesn't make any difference because you're specifying the number of columns. So obviously this number of column means number of columns per row. So if you write a 3 over here, the compiler will automatically understand that fine, the, there will be 3 columns. That means the first 3 values will go into the first row, then the next 3 will go in the next row, and so on and so forth. So writing this 3 is completely optional. So first of all, let's compile the code with this 3 over here. We'll get the same output. So this is our output. Now let us remove this 3 and now let's build the code. The output is again the same. It makes no difference. Now what I want to say is that this is again hard coding. But if the user has to enter the input, we will again have to put in a loop over here. So for that, let us write a loop. This will again be a nested loop. So let's write it like this. And the loop will end here. Inside this, we will prompt the user to enter the particular element. And I will scan this. So that is it. So enter 0, 0. Let's say 10, 20, 30, 40, 60, and we will go till 90. So that is the output. So that is all for the 2D arrays as well. So the process is entirely the same, whether it is 1D array or 2D array or n-dimensional array. The process is entirely the same. You just need to keep in mind the dimension and the indices of that array. Okay. Now this is obviously static initialization of an array. Later on, we'll also study about dynamic initialization. That means over here, the size of an array is already known to us. But what if the size were not known? What if the size would vary with time? So in that case, we obviously need dynamic initialization. So that I'll teach you later on in further videos.